Hey, what's up, friend? Are you a mama who wants to stop just getting by? Maybe you're motivated to grow yourself in your motherhood, your marriage, and you want it to bear fruit. Or maybe you want to stop letting the mom guilt, the shame, the limiting beliefs, and lies. Amen. That's me right there, sister. And start stepping into the woman and the truth that God has created you to be. While we're juggling all the things, right? Nursing a baby, battling laundry, trying to keep it together, and a spicy marriage. But where the heck do we start? Hey friend, you are in the right place. I am here to hold your hand through this journey because I believe when you're ready to take control of your life, beat the limiting excuses, and step into the woman God created you to be, you can not only survive, but you can thrive. But you're gonna have to show up for yourself. It's time for me to tough love your way through taking self-care seriously, investing and growing in your marriage, and owning your motherhood, and getting rid of those excuses because the glory is in the journey. It's in the mess. In this podcast, you'll find navigating mom guilt, mindset, and marriage strategies and everything in between, with no fluff and lots of fun. Let's go. Hey friends, what's up? Today's another topic on marriage, and it was a suggested topic from the So She Grows Mom community. So if you aren't in there, hop in there. Also, you guys, I am super pumped that the Marriage Method course is going live tomorrow, which is why we have been doing all these marital topics and things of such, because what is in that course is so good and it relates to everything we've been talking about. So here's today's topic. It's how to make intimacy a priority. And I felt like this has a lot to unpack. Like there's a lot of other things that need to be worked on, especially that we go into deeply in the Marriage Method course. But if you're just talking about logistically, like what are the things tactically I need to do to make intimacy a priority, I've got you. So let's go. Let's get on with it, right? Okay, so first, before I tell you what you need to do, I want you to evaluate, which is what we do often in here, is I want you to see where you are. Like, it's hard to move forward when we don't take a full evaluation of where we are right now, right? Because then also it gives us perspective and we can say, oh, I came from A and now I'm at all the way at point G, right? Like, it's helpful to be able to see that and to be able to look back and be like, oh, okay, this makes sense. This is why. That's why we always have hindsight 2020 or whatever, right? Like we're like, oh, this makes sense now. Had I done this, that, and the other, like this would have turned out differently, or this is why this is the way it is now. So I want you to ask yourself, what does it look like now? Like, what does your intimacy look like now? Does it only happen when we have extra time or energy? Is it only happening because you feel guilty? You're like, you know that like at least a month has passed or so, and you're like, dang it, like I don't really want to make him wait any longer. Maybe it's out of fear. Maybe you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want him to leave me, so I better do this performance because otherwise he may seek it somewhere else, right? Not out of like your love or like genuine desire for intimacy, but because you're trying to hold on to something. Or maybe it's that you feel the pressure and you cave, right? Like you're like, oh gosh, like he's been nagging me, he's been telling me, so like fine, let's just get it over with. Or you're in this other group where you feel like somehow life right now is crazy. You're exhausted. The days are long. You have little ones running all over the place. And you just feel like somehow it'll work itself out. Like you're not going to worry about it. It hasn't happened. You don't even think about what he's doing. Maybe it crosses your mind a little bit of like, oh, maybe, like, I wonder how he's doing with this. Is he struggling with this? And then you just carry on because life is too busy for you to pay attention to it. And you're just hoping that somehow it will work itself out. The last kind of group that I feel like that you're in is that you're hoping that somehow, like the first one I just mentioned, you're hoping that somehow like intimacy will make its own way for itself. It'll make its own time for itself. Or you're in this other group of you feel like somehow you will all of a sudden find the desire or the attractiveness toward your spouse, and that will be the time that things jumpstart again. The problem with this is that sometimes, somehow, does not happen on its own. It's like me staring at my refrigerator, my empty refrigerator, and just looking at it and being like, somehow, some way, at some time, you're going to get filled. Fully knowing that I'm the one who has to make the forward moving motion to get in my car, to go to the grocery store, to get the groceries and bring them home and be the person that fills the refrigerator. I can't just sit here and look at it and be like, you will be filled. Like, right? Like, it doesn't happen. I wish, but it doesn't happen, okay? So the same thing with intimacy. We have to be intentional about intimacy to start allowing it to become a natural priority. If we've let it go to the wayside, then it's like riding a bike. It's like rollerblading, okay? If you used to rollerblade in the 90s or as a teenager or as a tween, whatever, right? Like right now, you're like, dang, I can still do it probably, but I'm going to bust my butt like trying to do it again. I'm going to look like a fool trying to do it again. I'm going to have to actually get the courage to like muster myself up to get on those rollerblades and go through the neighborhood again, right? Like, so we have to be intentional. And then after we start going through the motions, practicing getting on the bike again, right? Then it starts to become a natural part of our routine again. Things happen, kids happen, life happens. You're living in an RV with your whole family, that happens, right? And so like things and transitions happen, seasons happen. And so sometimes our intimacy becomes at the bottom of the list because we're prioritizing everything else. And so then we have to start being intentional about, hey, this thing that's important to our marriage has to get back somewhere up higher on that list because it is impactful. And research shows a lack of seriously can make or break our marriage, okay? Like, not even make it, right? Like, it can break you. It can break your relational connection because here's the deal. Like, one of you guys feels connected because of intimacy. The other one of you needs connection to be intimate. So you have to figure out who is who. I know for me, I am the one who needs to feel connected to be intimate. My husband, on the other hand, feels connected because of intimacy. Okay, so I have verbally told him that I need to feel connected, especially if there's a day that went by where we didn't connect at any point. You know, we didn't send a text message, or maybe the text message were just like, hey, are you going to go here? Are you going to pick up the kids here? And like, for me, that's not enough. I need to like connect with you. I need you to like be in my world instead of just feeling like we're bypassers and then we come together in the bedroom at night to do this deed and then wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and we roll over and repeat, right? Like, to me, it feels like there's a lack of connection in that way for me. So you have to decide who is who in this situation and then talk about it. Once I let him know that that's what I felt like, and obviously it wasn't his intention for that way, and he doesn't know because that's not how his mode is, right? So once he realized, then he could make an intentional decision to at night connect with me, and then he gets what he wants and I get what I want, right? So we're able to better be intimate with each other because these things are applied. Okay, so that would be the first thing that you need to do is figure out who is who and have that conversation and share with each other that, y'all, communication is a huge and crucial part of your marriage. I talk about this in depth in the Marriage Method course. You guys are going to freaking get so tired of me saying the Marriage Method course because there's so much to unpack that like I can't go into it in every detail. Like for this episode, I'm thinking, you know what? Your intimacy would also benefit from the fact of you doing all this behind the scenes work of all the things that you're going to do in the course, like acknowledging all the things that you've been through and all the environmental circumstances and all the relational influences that you've had. And then also doing some self-work and then also working on communication and connection. And like, if all these things are in place, then we can feel more at ease about being intimate because we are being fulfilled, right? And so then when we feel connected, those things allow us to feel connected to our spouses, which make it easier for us to be intimate with our spouses. Y'all, it is not like we're in the newlywed season anymore where we are getting to know each other. We are already knowing each other, right? But now we're continuously evolving, but adding kids and adding life and adding jobs and adding this and adding that. And then intimacy goes lower and lower and lower on the list, right? And then also just naturally our hormones change. But that's a whole nother conversation of if you feel like you have a low libido, which I will tell you, I felt like that for a long time. 1, you need to check your hormones. 2, you need to really do some deep searching of, is this really a hormonal thing or is this really a lack of connection thing? Is this we've let our marriage altogether go to the wayside, like it's gone lower on the priority list to where now it's affecting me my attractiveness towards my spouse, my intimacy level towards my spouse, my connection, my communication, all those things, which all circle back to a lack of intimacy, because if you don't feel connected, if you don't feel like you're communicating well, then it's hard. So see, there's a lot to unpack, but I'm going to give you these tangible things of, okay, like just tell me what I can do to prioritize intimacy. So here they are. One is to set up a time where you two can just be you two. So whether it's coffee in the morning with no kids, or it's snuggling in bed with no computer, no phone, and no kids, okay? Like you have to figure out a time between like 5 and 30 minutes where you guys can just genuinely ask each other, about your day, other things, connect, talk about things, laugh, sit, and just be in each other's presence. Sometimes for me, we don't even need to have conversation. It's just the joy of sitting down, finally taking a deep breath, relaxing, having a cup of hot tea and maybe a piece of chocolate, and sitting side by side with my spouse in bed. The thing that when I was doing these tips, I realized that we do that is, blocked, I guess, hindered my lack of connection, which allows me to be intimate, is that when we are both on our computers and watching a show and I'm on my phone, I don't feel connected. So I think that's an adjustment that I need to make, is that I need to not probably work at nighttime, or at least give myself a timed space of, okay, I'm going to sit down and either work for 10 minutes and then the rest just snuggle, or snuggle for 10 minutes and then the rest work. Like there has to be some sort of space where I'm not distracted the entire time, because then when we go to bed, I realize that he feels like he's connected, right? Because he spent time with me. That's what I needed. But then, like, now that the phone is off, the TV is off, the computer is shut, and we're in, like, now I'm trying to have a conversation while we're trying to go to sleep, right? Like, I'm trying to then connect, and it's too late, right? And then it's too late to be intimate. So also think about the time. Maybe for you guys don't have that evening time because of activities or late nights at work, whatever. And so in the morning, you have this space because you're early birds, there's no kids, and you guys can have coffee together. You can read your newspaper together. You guys need to decide as a couple and personally what it is that you need. And then it can change, right? Because I'm realizing like what I need sitting next to each other in the evening, that's just not enough when I'm also distracted, because then I'm so distracted that I'm forgetting to conversate with my spouse, and then it's hindering my feeling connected. And so like try something, and then if it doesn't feel right, then try something else. Like it doesn't have to end there, which leads me to also realizing what time of day. Intimate times don't have to be in the evening. Like we're not limited to that one slot at the end of the day. Because the unfortunate thing about putting it at the end of all the things is that it's at the end of all the things, right? We are tired. We've had food thrown at us. We've had snot put in our hair, right? We feel exhausted. We feel burnt out. We feel like we have no more to give. So maybe it needs to start being in the morning. Maybe you guys need to start waking up and having coffee in the morning and being cute together for 5 minutes. And then knowing that you still have 10, 20 minutes before the kids wake up, that's when it goes down, right? So we need to reevaluate at what point in the day is your go time. And maybe it doesn't need to be at nighttime anymore, okay? And maybe it does. You have to decide what works for you. One size does not fit all. Am I right or am I right? No, just kidding. That was so bad, but I had to. Okay, so number 2, date nights. I am extremely passionate. I've been preaching this since day one on the podcast. So you'll hear it in all the other marriage episodes, that when my husband and I were feeling a lack of connection, we were in a rough season in our marriage a few years ago. I was going to say a couple years ago. I don't even know. It was a while back, okay? And so we made the commitment to date night every Friday night for a month, or for 3 months, I think it was. It was something like that. And you guys, this is a hard commitment to make because you're paying for babysitters, you're having to move around things in your schedule, you're having to prioritize yourself as a couple instead of the kids' sleepovers, instead of the parties, instead of the get-togethers with friends. You guys have to make the choice. You have to be intentional and stop going out on dates with other couples. If your marriage is failing, if your marriage is struggling, if you're not connected to each other, y'all have to stop going on double dates, because all you're doing is masking. You're just putting a Band-Aid on the problem. You're like, oh yeah, we go out on a date night, but then you don't talk. You don't connect with each other because you guys are connecting with your friends instead. You're not having those serious conversations that need to happen. You're not talking about the issues in your marriage that need to have been talked about, right? You're not connecting with each other, asking each other, and getting to know each other, because we change over time. We evolve. We have new interests. We have new things going on. And it's hard to do with other couples. It's hard to have those vulnerable conversations when other people are around, right? So, I feel really passionate because I see couples all the time. They're like, oh yeah, we're having a really hard time. But then I see they've gone on 1,000 double dates. And I'm like, what are you doing? I know for me, when my marriage isn't I'm in a season right now. I really want to go out with friends. I do. But I also know man, I'm only getting a date night once every quarter right now, which makes me struggle real hard, and it's making my connection with my spouse real hard. And so I need to prioritize that if I get a babysitter for one night, it needs to be with me and my spouse right now. We need to connect more than anything. I don't need to cultivate friendships. I can do that in other ways, right? I will find a way to connect with my friends via messaging, via text, via voice memos, whatever. But right now, I have to own up to the fact that my marriage needs to take a front seat right now. So that is another question that you have to evaluate in yourself. What am I doing? Am I going out with friends? Are we constantly surrounding ourselves with friends, but we're never alone? Why is that? Why are we avoiding that? Are we avoiding conflicts? Why? You have to constantly ask yourself what is going on and evaluate it, right? And then have those date nights and bring a sheet. It's awkward. I remember the first few times we were having a date night and I was like, oh my gosh, all we talk about is the kids. Is this how it's going to be? Are we in trouble? And then we kept having date nights. And then I brought questions on my phone, actual conversation starters. I snapshotted that I found on Pinterest and I took them. And then I'd peek down at my phone and then I'd ask my husband a question. And then after a while, after a month or so of this, then I didn't need those anymore. Then we were having conversation and we were connecting naturally. Get it? See, we have to be intentional for it to become a natural priority, okay? For it to become a natural part of our actions again. And so then after this season that we were doing, every Friday night, thank goodness we had a grandparent that was on board. We told them what we were doing and it was necessary for our marriage and they were on board with us, okay? Even if it wasn't, we would have somehow budgeted that money. And then after we did that season of every Friday night, we're going on a date, then we knew that we were in a healthy, good place and we backed off. Then we did every other weekend, right? And I think that is a healthy time frame as well. You have to decide what is necessary for your guys' relationship. Sometimes you need more, sometimes you need less, and it depends again on the seasons that you're in. Right now, I could use a date night every week, but that ain't happening, right? We don't have a house for anybody to be babysitting our kids in right now. So it's very difficult. That's why this last weekend or the couple weekends ago where we actually finally got a babysitter, my husband made it worthwhile and we stayed overnight in a hotel in an actual bed with the actual walls. It was amazing because he knew how necessary it was right now that we're going so far and few between date nights. It's so crucial, so important, and so impactful to your connection, and which also again impacts your intimacy. Okay, and then so I already talked about changing the time, and then I would say the next tip is to connect and send text during the days. You guys, there are these awesome little note cards that you can find at Hobby Lobby that are already printed up. They look super cute. They're in the little gift aisle by the greeting cards and stuff, and they have some for kids too. And I just rip those out. It has a space for me to write a little note, and I stick it in there in somewhere where my spouse or my kids can find them. That is a way that you can connect during the day. You're going that extra mile to be I see you, I appreciate you, I love you, I'm still attracted to you. And that helps facilitate intimacy later on in the day or in the week whenever it is supposed to come around, because you guys are making those points of connection. Also asking your spouse, hey, can you make it a point to connect with me during the day? I really want you to just send me a text without it just being hey, go pick up dinner. What are you picking up for dinner tonight, right? Have them set a reminder in your phone to send you a text message. I don't care if they have to get something off of Pinterest. You can even tell them, hey, find me a text message, a sweet poem or a sweet meme or blah, blah, blah for this and that. I don't care what you send me. Just connect with me during the day. Please put a reminder in your phone. Put a reminder in his phone. And then just make it a point. You guys, Pinterest is amazing for these types of things. I've gone to Pinterest many times to find example text messages or ideas of funny or sexy text messages. Because sometimes I'm just not creative enough to do that, or I'm too nervous about it, and so I'm gosh, I don't know what to say, what's hot, how do I not sound awkward right now, how do I not sound a creep right now. And so you can look those up and they literally are there, and nobody cares if you've copied and pasted it. Nobody. So let's review real quick. So set a time where you guys can just be you two together, date nights, connecting during the day, sending texts to each other during the day, some form of connection, right? Changing the time possibly of when you guys are going to be intimate. And then also let's talk about the fact that intimacy does not have to look like any certain thing. We have no boundaries. Like, there doesn't have to be any kind of expectation. There doesn't have to be any kind of this, that, and the other. And that is a conversation you can have with your spouse as well of like, hey, I don't snuggle you, or I'm not close to you because I have this expectation or this fear that every time you do that, it's going to lead to something else. And if it is, like, they can let you know. But like most of the time, you know, they're like, no, it's not. Or sometimes it does, but that's because they love you and they're attracted to you. But then no, like when you put it out there and you're like, hey, like I feel like there's these expectations, and then they're like, no, I'm just extremely attracted to you, then it lessens the pressure, okay? And then you can do with that whatever you want to and not feel like it has to lead to a certain expectation or a certain desire or a fulfillment that is defined in your head that isn't necessarily what is going on in the moment, okay? So like intimacy can be snuggling, you guys. Like intimacy can be anything, right? That is up for you guys as a couple to decide and talk about. So that is my next tip, is talk about it. You need to talk about likes and dislikes. You need to talk about these things about expectations, what you feel like is being portrayed. And then so he can be clear about what is really truthful about his actions or what his needs are and what is going on, where he feels. Like y'all, the one, I have this module in the Marriage Method course, Connect and Do the Hanky Panky. And it's because it is so powerful for your marriage, but we are adults and we have to be able to have these conversations. And then we have to be okay with the fact that maybe some feathers are ruffled. And then we come back to this conversation and say, hey, that's not how I meant it. I love you. I want to figure this out. How can we figure this out together? Because I want to feel connected to you. Okay. And then you get on the same page and then you try things. And you're like, nope, not for me. Okay. Like you can do that. There's like nobody makes the rules for this, guys. So, you know, and then talk about how you want it to feel like it's no pressure. Like you want to make out for the evening with no pressure. Like have fun. There's no pressure, right? Have these conversations. And then the last I would say is schedule it. If you're really struggling with prioritizing intimacy, then schedule it. There's no shame in your game, mom. Like if you got a planner and this is how you rule your life and it's the only way you can get to A to Z, and if it's not in that planner, it ain't happening, then you go ahead and you scribble in that sex time, girl, okay? Like you make it happen. Maybe you're not even a on the books, pencil to paper, digital, like in your phone planner. Maybe it just has to be in your head. Like in my head, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm about to start my period and it's been days. It's been days, girl. Like, so I tell myself, I'm like, maybe I should like do something about this right now because it's going to be heavy Shark Week, you know, like it's going to be uncharted territories for a few days. And in those days, like I'm not going to want anybody to come near me. Plus I'm going to be irritable. Plus I'm going to be bloated, like all these things. Like, so maybe in my head, it's like this floating schedule of, okay, like as long as I'm doing these things for this amount of time, like we good. Okay. Like, and sometimes it's just that way because of life, right? Like sometimes I don't even have to think about it because we're just connecting and we're on point with each other and it's just happening naturally. And then other weekends it gets so busy and then things sneak up on me and then I'm like, oh yeah, I have to be intentional about this. Like we got to get back into our groove. I got to like focus on my husband. I got to focus on our marriage. I need things too. Like it's okay that we have desires too. I think that sometimes we think about intimacy as serving our husbands because it's like they want it all the time or whatever. Like girl, like we should feel that way too, right? We should be like all hot and bothered. We should be ready to go because we are attracted to our spouse or we are insanely connected to them. Like it is okay. And I think that it is a good thing that you want to get back in that place for your own self, not for them, because then it becomes an unhealthy thing where we're just checking a box. Okay. Which is why I say, like, I shared with you some tips to make it a priority, but there's a lot of back work that needs to happen if you're in a place of like, you know, it ain't happening. I just want to prioritize it so that way my spouse doesn't feel neglected. Like then, sister, we have some work to do. And I highly suggest getting in that Marriage Method course right now, girl. But if you can't, like that's okay. Just know that there's some work that needs to be done. And if it's not going to be you, if you can't do it on your own and you can't prioritize this time, then girl, you need somebody else to step in and help you guys do that as a couple. All right, sis. And so that is all I have to say about that. But again, if you feel like you are having issues with maybe you can't seem to feel like you're ever in the mood, maybe it's because you feel like you never enjoy it, like you're having issues with feeling desirable or desiring, then I highly suggest you go check out Jana Denton House. I talk about her all the time. She is an insanely talented woman who has a way of making you feel comfortable, loving yourself, loving your spouse, enjoying intimate times. Like, you guys, I have not seen so many couples go through her programs, get in her Facebook groups, all the things, watch her Instagram lessons and stuff without feeling the impact of it. It is crazy good. So if that is you, if you feel like you're in the boat of like, maybe you just don't feel like you have your swag back, like you lost it somewhere down the line, like, she is a woman to talk to start watching her videos, okay? Like, you need to deep dive into all her content because it is good and it is amazingly impactful to women and couples. So I hope you guys have an amazing day. I hope that was helpful. Again, make sure you share this with a mama who could use a tribe that gets her, a tribe that knows what she's going through, right? Like, we've all been through it. We're all in different stages and seasons of motherhood, but we can relate. We can be like, yes, sister, I know what that's like, right? And I feel like there is something so good and healthy about being a part of a tribe like that, where you guys are openly talking about stuff, even if we're not in person, okay? I would love to meet you guys in person, but for right now, we're all up in the Facebook group, or we're all listening together up in here. So I would love to have more mamas get that opportunity to join our tribe. And that is all. So I hope you guys enjoy your week, enjoy your weekend, and hopefully tomorrow I'll put out another episode for you that is maritally related. We shall see. All right, guys, I will see you later. Bye.